What's up, y'all? Toya here, and I am back with another video for y'all. Before we get into the video, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Alright, y'all, I am back again after my short hiatus. Yeah, dealing with bronchitis is no bueno. And of course, when I started to get better, I decided to lose my voice for like 3 days. So yeah, I would say I'm about 95%. Still got a little cough that I'm dealing with, but you know, that's always the last thing to go, right? So yeah, I have a few things on my list that I wanted to discuss. And one of the topics we're going to discuss today, I think a lot of you guys might have already heard about it, but just in case you haven't, I'm going to go ahead and cover it, and I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts and opinions. So yeah, today's topic is Roadie. Roadie is lowering its pay again. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Roadie is not an app that you guys see me talk about much at all. I think the last video I did on Roadie was when I was talking about Roadie XD. But you definitely don't see any deliveries. At least you haven't seen anything recently. Now, back in 2022, that's when I first discovered Roadie. And at that time, I was doing the Walmart batched orders. And if I still have screenshots from them, I'll go ahead and put them up so you guys can see what the pay was looking like at the time. I felt like I was getting paid stupid money to do some of those routes, I swear. Yeah, it was great at that time. You know, making $100 in like 2 or 3 hours. You know, it was great. It was great. And that didn't last long. So eventually they did slash the pay, and it just wasn't worth it anymore. I ended up just not really checking for Roadie as much. I would open up the app from time to time to see if there was anything that was worth taking. Sometimes there was, sometimes there wasn't, but most of the time there really wasn't anything worth it. Now, even though I wasn't really checking for Roadie like that anymore, I would say that I've always paid attention to some of the larger orders that were available. Now, my vehicle, 9 times out of 10, they probably aren't going to be able to handle some of these orders. And of course, that just depends on what the order actually contains. I just didn't want to take that risk and get like a door or something like that and have that in the back of my car. So I just kind of stayed away from those extra large and huge orders. And most of those orders, even though I did see them on Walmart sometimes and sometimes from other stores, but Home Depot seemed like they had a consistent flow of orders coming in that paid very well, honestly. I've always thought about, okay, how can I go ahead and elevate my game? How can I go ahead and take this to the next level? And after watching Cars and Cribs and Pat Gigtainment, seeing how they had success on Roadie, you know, one of those plans that I wanted to do was actually potentially get a cargo van or just a vehicle that was big enough to accommodate those types of orders, because there's a lot of money out there if you do have a large enough vehicle to accommodate those orders. And I'm not just talking about Roadie, I'm just talking about in general. After watching them, I'm like, okay, you know what? I think it might be time to take this step. It might be time to take this step. So I started, you know, doing my research. I started taking note of the drop times on Roadie, you know, making sure I had it written down in my phone so I know what to expect when I do decide to take that next step, right? But unfortunately, it seems like I might have been a little bit too late because, like I said, Roadie has lowered the pay. So for those extra large orders, if I remember correctly, those are paying like 30, 35 bucks, somewhere around that range. I know it was the 30 range, and that's gotten reduced to like 25 bucks. Huge orders, I've seen some huge orders from like $40 to $50, if not more. Those have been reduced to like 35, 36. So yeah, no bueno. Now, the pay to mileage ratio for the most part, and a lot of these gigs, they are still pretty good. I would say on average, the gigs that I see in my market specifically, they average about 5 miles per order. Some more, some less, it just depends. But you usually don't have to do too much traveling with a lot of these orders. So like I said, that pay to mileage ratio is super important for a lot of people. It's still pretty good. And on the outside looking in, somebody might say, well, if you're getting paid like 25, 35, close to $40 for a 5-mile drive on average, what's so bad about that? Well, the amount that you have to transport, that can vary, because with these huge orders, you know, some of these items, they may not necessarily be heavy. They might just take up a lot of space in your vehicle. And some others are extremely heavy, and some are both. I remember seeing a lot of orders during the springtime and summertime when people were doing their, gardening and everything like that, right? And people were ordering tons of mulch and rocks and soil, and those bags don't necessarily take up a lot of space. But, if you're ordering 20 or 30 bags worth, sometimes a pallet, I can't remember who I watched, but somebody literally had a pallet's worth of mulch and soil, and yeah, it was a lot. So imagine you have to load up these bags, then you get to the location, you have to unload, and some of these bags get up there and weight 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. And sometimes people order bags of concrete. A lot of that stuff is really heavy. So after going back and forth, even if you have a cart to not put too much strain on your body, after all that back and forth dealing with all these heavy bags, you go ahead and look to see how much did you get paid, and you're like, dang, they paid me 30, 35 bucks for this. I made about 10 trips. They didn't order like 40, 50 bags. Pay to mileage ratio is super important, don't get me wrong. But sometimes how much work that you got to do, that adds another element to whether or not that order is worth it. So if you did all of that and $30 was your payout, you might be a little ticked off. I ain't gonna lie. So what does this mean? What happens now? Well, what I've said about Roadie way back in the past, however many months ago that was, it's more true than ever. It's going to be very, very, very hard to justify, utilizing the Roadie app when it comes to doing orders in your everyday vehicle. So the small, medium, large orders, the pay, it just does not make sense in a lot of cases. You might be able to get just over $1 per mile for some of these orders, but I would say a majority that I'm seeing in my market, they are below $1 a mile. And unless you're able to go and stack some of these orders, there really isn't any point in taking any of them. Most of the money that you can make is going to be with those orders where you need to have a large enough vehicle to accommodate those extra large and those huge orders. Now, is all the pay on those orders great? Absolutely not. But that is where you're going to be able to get more bang for your buck. And honestly, that's just a general rule that doesn't even have anything to do with Roadie. If you have a large enough vehicle to accommodate those very large orders, the larger the vehicle, the more your vehicle can hold. You can get those larger orders or have multiple orders, and you're probably going to end up making more money because there's only so much that you can fit in a smaller car or a small SUV. Now, there definitely are still orders that you can go ahead and pick up on Roadie. I see those CVS prescription orders all the time. And most of those, they really don't have too far of a drive. The pay is decent. I would say between 8 to 12 bucks per order for most of those, at least what I've seen in my market. And if you're able to go ahead and stack a couple of those, you might be able to make a decent amount of money within an hour. So, and with minimal driving as well, because most of these, I would say a lot of these are like 1, 2, maybe 3 miles, maybe more. But most of these are fairly short distances. Every now and then you might get one that's, kind of out there, but they keep it fairly local to the pharmacy. Sometimes you might see a Walmart order, a batched order that might pay $1.25, maybe $1.50 a mile. And there might be some other stores that you can check out in your market. Every market is different. I've seen orders from tire shops. I've seen them from Fanatics, At Home. I think I've seen like some flower shops. I've seen Four Seasons. Then, of course, you have the luggage pickup from the airport. I have not seen one that was worth taking. And same can be said about Best Buy orders. I don't know how they look in everyone else's market, but they are absolutely terrible out here. If you're lucky, you can get $1 per mile, but 9 times out of 10, they are going to screw you over. So, like I said, every market is different. You just have to study your market, see what stores are available, and make the best decision from there. Because, yeah, it's getting kind of rough out here. I ain't gonna lie. But with all that being said, the main thing that I dislike about Roadie is their offer system. And I feel like I've never gotten a clear explanation on how they go about selecting drivers for a gig. Some people might say, oh, they go off of distance. So the closer you are to the gig, the more likely you are to get it. I find that to be false because there have been plenty of times where I have been in the parking lot of the store. I put in an offer and I still didn't get it. So if anyone knows, let me know, because I feel like every explanation that I've gotten, it just does not make sense. So with this offer system being so sporadic, with pay being lowered and a majority of the orders that are available not really being that attractive, when there is a decent looking order that pops up, of course everybody's gonna go ahead and flock to it. And the only thing that does is, of course, just makes it a bit more difficult for people to get quality orders, because everybody's fighting for that one order over here that actually pays decently. But with all that being said, all of this just kind of adds an extra layer to a system that's already a hassle. And also, in case anyone's wondering about Roadie XD, I know I did a video about that. It was like, what, 3 or 4 months ago when they had introduced it. I have not been able to get onto Roadie XD. When I reached out to Roadie support to ask about the status of my application, they pretty much told me that I just have to wait until I am eligible. They are not explaining how do I get eligible. It's just when you're eligible, we'll let you know. So I don't know if there's anyone in the Chicago area that has done Roadie XD. If so, please let me know how it has been and how did you get on, because it seems like every time I contact support, I'm not getting anywhere. I know I pretty much don't do Roadie gigs at all, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I am clearly active. I can still pick up gigs if I wanted to, but for whatever reason, I'm not eligible, even though I went ahead and applied like probably within the week or two when it was announced. I'm trying to get ahead and get in there, but I don't know. But the reason I mentioned Roadie XD was because I was watching Pat Gigtainment. I forget how long ago, probably about a month ago or so. And I think he mentioned that they lowered the pay on some of those routes. And of course, I can't confirm or deny because I don't know what they look like, because I'm not on Roadie XD to see. So yeah, I'm kind of curious, like I said, if there is anyone that has done Roadie XD and you guys have seen a difference in the pay from when they first started up until now, I would definitely love to know if Roadie XD also got hit with a pay cut. So, and of course, I still wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Honestly, that's just the cycle of these apps. Things start off really good, you're getting paid decent money, and then they start to get you hooked, and before you know it, they then went and slashed the pay. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to stick around or if you want to move on to another app. So yeah, this is why I always tell you guys, like, you have to have multiple apps in your arsenal. Because if you're relying on just that one app or even just 2 or 3 apps, something changes and you're not able to make the same amount of money that you were before, you really don't have too many other options if you have a very limited list of apps. You have to learn to pivot to something else. And this is just a prime example. If you were somebody that had Roadie on your list as your go-to app, and now that the pay has been cut, you might have been able to bring in like maybe $250 a day, but now that pay has gotten cut, now you're bringing in maybe 20 or 30% less. And 9 times out of 10, if you're like anybody else in this country, your expenses are just going up. Expenses are going up, but the pay is going down. And that is not a good equation. So yeah, in regards to Roadie in general though, if there are gigs that are available that make sense to you, go for it, okay? I'm not telling you to not use Roadie. Roadie is definitely not as attractive as it used to be, at least in my time that I've used Roadie. I've seen some people comment that they've used Roadie way back in the day. I can only speak on my experience from when I used it from 2022 up until now. Is it the best app? Obviously not. But I still wouldn't say that it is the worst. It kind of depends on just like how you want to go ahead and work the app. Like I said, there is opportunity, but you just have to put yourself in the right position to take advantage of those opportunities. And of course, like I said, with that offer system, it's a hit or miss. So if you end up doing a lot of missing, you might just have to pivot to something else. You can still keep Roadie on the back end, just in case, because I always keep Roadie on in the back just to see, if I happen to be doing on-demand orders, I always check Roadie to see, okay, I'm in this area, so is there something that I can do that'll lead me back over here? You just got to use it to your advantage. Okay, that's all you can do. That's the best that you can do, because these companies don't care. They're going to keep lowering the pay. They're going to keep lowering the pay. But at the end of the day, you just have to go ahead and take the orders that work for you. do, make the best out of that situation, and, you know, keep getting your hustle on. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this video. So I would definitely love to hear your thoughts about Roadie's pay cut. And if there's anyone that still does use Roadie on a regular, I would love to hear how it's been working out for you. Would you say you're still fairly profitable, or do you think it's time to hang it up and uninstall the Roadie app? Let me know in the comments. Now, before I go, I have to remind you guys to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss a video. But I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. And as always, stay safe out there and keep grinding.